There is a specific kind of loneliness that only certain people know. It doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being surrounded by people who trust you completely, who tell you the things they've never told anyone else, who leave your presence feeling lighter, unburdened, seen. And then, when the door closes behind them, you sit in the quiet with everything they gave you. And you realize again that no one asked how you were. If you are an INFJ, you probably know this feeling in your body before your mind names it. The slight heaviness after a long conversation where you were the listener. The strange emptiness after being deeply useful. The quiet ache of being the person everyone confides in while carrying a whole inner world that no one has ever thought to ask about. This is not self-pity. This is a pattern, and it has a name. It's called being the emotional container, the one who holds, the one whose depth is used, but rarely entered. Let's talk about why this happens, not to complain and not to fix you, because there is nothing wrong with you, only to give you the language for something you have been experiencing quietly for most of your life. The psychologist Daniel Batson, who spent decades studying empathy, described something called affective simulation. It's the process by which certain people don't just hear another person's story. They internally reconstruct it. They feel it. Their nervous system runs a version of that other person's experience inside their own body. For most people, empathy is a passing recognition. For you, it is a full immersion. This is why people tell you things. They don't fully understand why they open up to you within minutes of meeting you. They just feel something, a quality in your attention, a stillness in your presence, a sense that whatever they say will land somewhere safe, somewhere it will be understood without judgment. And so they speak and keep speaking and leave feeling changed. You have probably been this person since childhood. The friend adults said things to that they wouldn't say to other adults. The child who was told more than once that you were an old soul. The teenager whose classmates cried to you about things they couldn't tell their parents. The one whose phone lit up at 2 a.m. because you were the one who would answer with real presence. And here's the quiet part no one talks about. You did it willingly. You still do. Because holding people, understanding them, being the space they can finally exhale into, this is not a burden you resent. It is meaningful to you. It is one of the deepest expressions of who you are. But something happens over time. The role calcifies. The friendships develop a shape. You become known as the wise one, the deep one, the one who always knows what to say. And slowly, without anyone noticing, including yourself, you stop being asked about your own life. They asked sometimes, in the passing way, "How are you?" And you say, "I'm good." And they take it and move on, because the shape of the relationship has already been set. You are the listener. You are the one who holds. Your role does not include being held. This is the loneliness of being useful without being known. The researcher John Cacioppo, who spent his career studying loneliness, discovered something that changes how we understand this feeling. Loneliness, he found, is not about the number of people in your life. It is about the gap between the connection you have and the connection you need. You can be surrounded, deeply loved even, and still be profoundly lonely if the people around you do not know the version of you that lives underneath. And this is the INFJ paradox. You know everyone. You are known by almost no one, because here is what happens inside you when someone shares something with you. Your mind doesn't just receive it, it maps it. It places their story into a larger context, their history, their patterns, the emotional undercurrents they haven't named yet. You feel the thing beneath the thing. You see the shape of their inner world forming as they speak. And this is a rare gift. It is also quietly exhausting because at the end, when they leave, all of that stays with you. Their story becomes another layer in your interior life, another piece of another person's world that you now carry. And your own inner world, it waits. It has been waiting for a long time. Now, this next part matters. Your silence about yourself is not emptiness. It is not that you have nothing to say. It is that you have too much to say, and no container large enough to receive it. You have learned from years of experience that most people cannot hold the full depth of your inner world the way you hold theirs. When you have tried to share the layered, complex, symbolic way you experience life, you have often been met with confusion, or a quick pivot, or advice you didn't need, or worst of all, a subtle discomfort that made you feel like too much, and so you learn to keep it inside, not out of secrecy, out of self-protection. Carl Jung, whose work still shapes how we understand introverted intuition, wrote that the introverted intuitive type often feels misunderstood, not because they are hiding, but because their inner language is so different from the outer world's language that translation itself is exhausting. You are not withholding. You are simply speaking a language most people have never learned. So the question is not, how do I stop being the one who holds? Because holding is part of who you are. You would not want to give it up. The question is, how do I move from being useful to being truly known? And the answer begins quietly with a shift in what you notice. Notice which people in your life have ever asked you a real question and waited for the real answer. Notice who circles back. Notice who says, "But what about you? Really?" and doesn't accept your first deflecting reply. These people exist, usually one or two, sometimes just one. That is enough. And with those people, practice something small. The next time they ask, don't hand them the polished version. Give them a sentence closer to the truth, just one. See what they do with it. If they hold it well, give them another day. This is how being known begins. Slowly, in fragments, with the people who have earned the depth of you. For everyone else, you can keep offering what you offer. Your listening, your presence, your quiet, powerful attention, but without the unspoken belief that giving is the only way you are allowed to exist in a relationship. You were not put here only to be a witness to other people's lives. Your inner world is not a private museum no one is invited into. It is a place worth entering, worth knowing, worth being asked about. And the silence you have carried for so long, the silence of everyone's stories piling up inside you while yours went unspoken, that silence is not who you are. It is the space that has been waiting patiently for the right people to finally step into. There is no rush here. There never is. Only the quiet recognition that you deserve to be known as deeply as you have known others, and the slow, gentle beginning of letting that happen. If this resonated, stay a while. Subscribe if it feels right. This is a quiet place for deep minds